Hey guys, Kyle here with HEXIS Americas. I want to give you a quick introduction to the HEXIS Precut Lab software for PPF and automotive window tint films. Let's jump in and learn some of the best essentials and all of the different settings that you need to get started. Once you're logged in, we can see that we start on our profile page. And if you look on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the main menu. So that is going to be your main navigation throughout the software. So starting from the top, we have your search vehicle. So this is where you access all of the template libraries. The cut boards, so that's any active cut board you have open. You can have up to 5. The saved boards below that is where you can access any custom edits or patterns that you've laid out previously and needed to save for a later use. Projects folder below that is where you can group up different saved boards and be able to keep things neat and tidy within the software. Your cut history is where you can view any cuts that you've sent to the plotter and be able to make any feedback or see how much film was actually run. So it's nice to be able to keep track of all of your film usage that way. And below that is our settings menu where I want to get started. So in here, you'll see that you've got your cutboard settings, so you can change the size as needed. We're going to be working with a 60-inch roll of film. You can change the length to whatever you want. I'm going to put in 20 feet. And below that, you'll see that we're working with imperial measurements, so inches and feet. If you need to change this, you can go to the bodyfence.net/HPL website to be able to change your units of measure. Within the other two tabs, you'll see that we have our cutting protocol and our plotter connection. Jumping over to the plotter connection side, this is where you can select based on your actual production setup. Are you using a USB connection? More than likely, you'll be using our top selection up here. With the printer plotter selected, you can then use the drop-down menu and find your plotter within the drop-down list. If you don't see your plotter, you more than likely just need to install the drivers direct from the manufacturer's website. There's also options for Summa plotters specifically, anything connected via an Ethernet cable, so your IP settings, and then a few other direct USB or COM port settings, depending on the exact brand you're using. Within the cutting protocol section, from here, most users are going to be fine using the HPGL cutting protocol, but just in case, if you're using a Summa machine, you can use one of the DMPL protocols that match that, and some other major manufacturers will use the GPGL. But there are, of course, other options in here. And below that, you'll see just a few options to be able to either override different plotter settings. One of my favorites is the feed after cut. Just makes production easier and faster to get the plotter to feed out any material past the last cut that was run. Once all of your settings are good to go, you can head over to the search vehicle settings and check out the template library. So let's search up a vehicle and do a BMW 7 Series. We'll do the sedan. And we'll look up the 740i, and we'll go with a new model year. And we can skip the region selection in most cases. If you need to, you can filter these out, but for most vehicles these days, I recommend skipping that just to ensure you're not accidentally filtering out any needed results. So once you get all of your vehicle patterns showing from the search, you also have some filters to be able to assist you. So for the exteriors, you can see we have our full kit here, as well as a few extra additions. And we also have our window tint kits and those extra options as well. If we're looking, we can also make sure we can filter for wrapped or true pre-cut options. In this case, we're just going to use the wrapped kit. When you're ready to actually add patterns to the cutboard, go ahead and select your pattern, and you'll see it load up here. Now, we can just use the add all button if we're doing a full wrap. In this case, I just need a couple of fenders and the front bumper to start. So I'll add just my selected pieces in there, and you'll see I get the preview here. If I needed to add more than one vehicle, I can then of course jump back into my vehicle search and start looking for the next one and add up to 5 to be able to open onto the same cupboard. But for now, let's just open this up and take a look at what we've got. So now that we have our patterns added in, it's a good time to be able to tell you about navigating through the active cupboard. So if you right click and drag, you can move your cupboard around, and you can use your scroll wheel or scroll function if you're using a laptop to zoom in and zoom out on the cupboard. If you have a pattern selected, you can then also hold down the control key and use the scroll wheel to then rotate your selected patterns. If you need, in this case, I've got a very tight rotation at 1 degree, we can change that to say 10 degrees, and you can see that we can get a much faster rotation going as well. So depending on what you need for your specific workflow, you can adjust those settings. So we can also click and drag to select multiple objects, and with multiple objects selected, we can then use Control G to group those objects together and be able to edit them together as needed. And of course, if you need to ungroup, just have everything selected and hit Control U. So you'll notice on our bumper here that we have some sub-patterns included for sensors and different badges. So we can leave those in, or we can delete them. There's a few ways to go about this. So with a pattern with sub-patterns selected, you can remove all of them at once by using the sub-pattern tool located right here under the modify options, and it'll remove all sub-patterns in one go. Now we can undo that real fast and check out some other ways if we want to be able to remove certain patterns individually or leave some in and delete others. What we can do is actually ungroup this. This bumper is a group of patterns together. So if we hit Control U, you'll see that we've now successfully ungrouped. We can select individual patterns that were previously all together and delete as needed. So if we only need to delete some of our sensors, we can do that. And of course we can undo real fast. And let me regroup these real fast. Control G. And if we double click on this pattern or any pattern, we can actually go into the nodes mode and be able to check out the different options here. So if you want to leave the sub patterns in, but say they need some minor adjustments, you can go in and actually select a node, adjust it around, and be able to change your anchors like any other vector program. And of course, we can delete points as well, or insert a new one. So if I need to insert, say, a point right here, we can add that extra point in for more specific adjustments. Now let's say don't want to do that. You can undo and leave that how it was. So additionally, let's say if I ungroup this real fast again, if we wanted to adjust these to be slightly bigger, we can also use our expand or inward tools. So with our wrap distance, we can set that as needed. In this case, I'm going to make it a little bit on the minor side, just for a slight adjustment on these. And we'll do 0.15 inches. And we want to make sure double cut is not tipped off. And use the outward tool. And you'll see that we've expanded just the sub pattern there. And then we can regroup. Or we can also do inward on this to bring it back where it was, or shrink it even further. And one more time to shrink. There we are. And let's jump over to our fender real fast and check out the partial wrap features. Let's zoom in on this edge, and let's say we need about 1/4 inch of additional material, so we can set our rack distance to 1/4 inch here, and with the pattern selected, we can then use our partial wrap tool. So with that, you'll see the change in the color of the pattern, but you'll also notice wherever the mouse is hovering, we have a little icon to let us know where we're going to start our partial wrap. And when we click, you'll see that start point and where we want to end here. And now we can either expand or contract. In this case, I want to expand that extra 1/4 inch, and we've added that little bit of extra material on there for the extra protection. In a similar way, you can then select this pattern and also use the bump tool. So what this does specifically is look at individual segments. So when you hover over the edge, you'll see that it's highlighting some different areas. Just click on those different segments to be able to add them to your selection. And you can then bump either outward or inward based on your wrap distance that you've set. So if we want to do an extra 1/4 inch out, you can see that we bumped all of those segments out. So that's sometimes an easier or faster way, depending on the type of pattern and how it reacts to the partial wrap tool. The bump tool can usually get the job done for you. Additionally, say we've done some of these edits, and we want to be able to have the other fender do the exact same, but we don't want to have to edit that whole other fender all over again. We can then take this, we can use Control-C on the keyboard and Control-V to copy and then paste with a click once we have our placement. So now, to be able to have it mirrored properly, we'll use our mirroring tool from the arrange settings up here, and we'll flip on the horizontal axis, and there we go. We have our pair of fenders with the same edits done. So additionally, one of the other tools that we have at our disposal is our split tool. So say we want to be able to do just a partial fender. So let's go ahead with the pattern selected. We will use our split tool. Be careful not to use split down or up. We'll get to that one later. But in the modify section here, select that. And you can basically start or end your split anywhere you want. I'm going to start here, just off the pattern. And you'll see I can use my grid lines here to get a nice straight cut. And we've split our pattern in two. So let me undo that real fast and show you that you can also do partial splits to be able to add your own relief cuts in. Now, I know you wouldn't do this on a fender, but just to be able to show you, we can start or end our cut anywhere that we need to. And if you need to be able to then enter into nodes mode and just adjust that relief for a little bit of extra gap, you can do that as well. So another interesting option, depending on your needs, you can also add in different shapes to be able to adjust as needed or weld into your other existing patterns. So if you go to your geometry tool here, you can then select either a rectangle or a circle. Let's just add a rectangle for now. You can define any size that you need as your starting position. Let's just do a 8x4, add that in, and click anywhere on the cut board to be able to add in our new shape. And say we need to weld in a piece onto this fender for some reason. You can then line it up. You go ahead and adjust that real fast. And with both patterns selected, we can then use our weld tool in the modify settings here and merge those two together so that you can see we have a nice clean new addition to our fender. Before we get too far, let me go ahead, hop back over here, and grab another pattern. So let's just look up a Model Y real fast. And we're just going to grab the hood out of this. And that'll open up a brand new cut board. But I want to be working on my current one, so let me just copy that real fast, hop back over to my original cut board, and paste that hood in here for myself. And with this, what I want to show you is using the split down up tool. So different from the standard split tool, with the pattern selected, when you activate this, you'll see that you have two rulers starting at opposite ends, 0 here and 0 here. So from here, you can then choose where you want your split to be. So say we need a solid 18-inch partial hood added to our vehicle. So let's go ahead and make our split right at 18 inches. And then we can go ahead and delete this unneeded part. And there we go. A nice, easy, quick split. And if we wanted to turn this into a bikini cut, we can then enter nodes mode by double clicking on the pattern and select any point on here to open up the flyout menu and insert a new point at click. And let's choose somewhere relatively center, add our new point, and be able to adjust this down. And you'll notice the green line here when you're adjusting nodes. What's important about that is it shows you where the original pattern was before you started editing. So as you're going through and adjusting your different anchors and points, you can see how far you've come from the original and whether or not the adjustment is making sense for what you were intending to do. So for here, I've just made a quick bikini cut, double click outside to be done with it, and we can move on. So now that we have a few patterns on our cut board, we want to lay these out in a relatively cost-effective pattern. So we'll use our nesting feature to allow HPL to do the work for us and auto-arrange our patterns. So we have a few options. I'm just going to go ahead and use the cloud nesting, which is generally recommended for more than 5 patterns on your cut board. Fast is actually, only takes about a minute, and it works beautifully. So as you can see, we got a pretty good layout that does a pretty good job. So we might be ready to go ahead and start cutting, but let me just go ahead and adjust some things here so I can show you another nice feature with the HPL software. So let's do that, and I've adjusted those so one should be just outside our cut board here, and another should be just barely overlapping with another pattern. And let's say we go ahead and use our overlap detection. So that will highlight a few patterns that I've messed with here, and it'll flash red, as you saw, to be able to tell me as a warning that I have issues that I need to fix. We adjust those out, we'll bring those back in. So now let's see if I did a good enough job rearranging those, and no warnings. Excellent. So now you'd be ready to use the cut tool and send your templates out to the plotter for the final cut. And whenever you select the cut tool here, it will automatically trigger an overlap detection check just as a final last step warning to be absolutely certain everything you're going to be sending will work perfectly. Now let's say we don't need to cut immediately. We're going to be prepping this project right now and we're waiting on the vehicle to arrive in the shop. We can go ahead and save all of these edits that we've done and the layout so that once the vehicle arrives, we are able to just load it up and get it out the door. So let's use our save board function right here, and we can title it whatever we need to. And we'll save that, and then we can safely close out of our cut board. And actually, let's go ahead and close out of this one as well. And now we can head over to our saved board section here on the left-hand menu, and we can find our saved board here and load it right up or delete it. Once we're ready, we'll hit load, vehicles in the shop. We're ready to get into production. It's loaded. We can head back over to our active cut boards, and it'll be right here in one of your active tabs at the bottom of the screen. So I hope all of this was some useful information to get you started with the HPL software. HEXIS Precut Lab is designed to be able to make your life simpler by being able to give you full customization on any patterns of your choosing, being able to save those edits, having full access to interior, exterior patterns for PPF, as well as full window tint patterns as well. Go ahead and claim your free 30-day trial at bodyfence.net/HPL.